As Ava and I sat on the sunny patio, our coffee cups warm between our hands and the hum of the city around us, my phone buzzed again. I glanced down. Another message from my mother. "Allie, we didn't mean it. Please, just call us. We need you." But this time, there was something different. It didn't sting. It didn't shake me. It didn't make me feel guilty or second-guess the decision I had made. I didn't feel the pull to explain myself, or the old, familiar ache to fix everything. Instead, I looked at Eva and smiled, a quiet, peaceful kind of smile. "I think I'm done," I said simply. Eva nodded. She didn't need to ask what I meant, because she knew, and finally, so did I. I was done rescuing people who only saw my worth in dollar signs, done shrinking myself just to be tolerated, done being the daughter who gave everything and was still never enough. This time, I chose myself. And for the first time, it felt like the beginning of something real. It wasn't just desperation anymore. It was fear. And for once, that didn't bother me. In fact, it almost felt fair. Ava glanced over as she saw me staring at my phone. "Are you going to answer them?" I shook my head. Not yet. Because deep down, I knew this wasn't the end. This was just the beginning. By the end of the second month, the silence was no longer something I feared. It was something I owned. My parents, on the other hand, were unraveling. Their messages became more frequent, their voicemails more frantic, their emails more layered in guilt. They couldn't comprehend why I wasn't rushing in, why their obedient daughter wasn't patching the cracks like she always had. They didn't recognize this version of me, the one who didn't bend. Even Eva noticed. "You seem lighter," she said as we strolled through the park, leaves crunching beneath our feet. "Like you're finally breathing." "I am," I admitted. "For the first time in my life, I don't feel like I owe anyone anything." Still, a part of me wondered when the real panic would begin. The mortgage wasn't just overdue anymore, it was in foreclosure. I knew my parents had been ignoring the bank's calls, pretending it wasn't happening. But that illusion shattered when I got the voicemail. My father's voice was strained and raw. "Allie, please, the bank. We're losing the house." Foreclosures started. We didn't mean what we said. "Please, just call us." I stared at the screen, unmoved. They had meant what they said. All of it. The only reason they were reaching out now was because the ground beneath them was crumbling, and I wasn't there to hold it up. That night, I got a message from an unknown number. "It's Aunt Carol. Your mom is a mess. Just call her. Family sticks together." I clenched my jaw. Family sticks together. That phrase had been weaponized against me for as long as I could remember, but I'd finally learned. Love doesn't mean self-sacrifice, and family doesn't mean servitude. I didn't reply. More messages followed. Cousins I hadn't spoken to in years suddenly felt qualified to comment. "Forgive and forget. Don't let pride destroy family. They didn't know what it was like to hear your parents call you a disappointment when they thought you weren't listening. They didn't know what it felt like to be a wallet with a heartbeat." When guilt didn't work, my parents pivoted to threats. It started subtly, my father emailing me an article about how difficult it is for seniors to find housing, underlined with, "Is this really what you want for your parents?" Then my mother escalated. "If you don't help us, people will find out what kind of person you really are. Your friends, your boss. Do you want that?" Chills ran up my spine. I hadn't expected them to go that far, but deep down, I wasn't surprised. I forwarded the email to Eva. She called immediately. "Allie, protect yourself. They're trying to twist this around." "I know," I said. "Not this time." I began gathering everything. Pay stubs, receipts, proof of payments. If they were going to try and destroy my name, I was going to be ready. A few days later, another email arrived, this time softer. We were just stressed. Please don't let this ruin everything. You're our daughter. You're supposed to help us. But their words no longer carried weight. They weren't sorry for what they said. They were sorry for losing their cushion. And I was no longer it. When Aunt Carol called again, her voice was frantic. They're losing the house, Allie. Only weeks left before auction. Your dad is beside himself. Your mom won't stop crying. Please, step in. The old me would have been pacing, breaking down, preparing to fix everything. But now? I'm sorry, Aunt Carol, I said calmly. I'm not getting involved. She went quiet, then gasped. They're still your parents, Allie. Yes, they made mistakes. But family is family. And that's why I gave more than I ever should have, I said. But I won't keep sacrificing myself for people who only love me when it benefits them. And I ended the call. Emails from the bank followed. Notices, updates, red letter warnings. The house was officially in foreclosure, and for the first time in years, I wasn't the one intercepting disaster. I wasn't buffering their poor decisions. The final straw was a voicemail from my mother, voice shaking with fury and blame. I hope you're happy. We're losing everything. The house, the car, it's all falling apart. Is that what you wanted? You're pathetic. Just like we always said. Not, we're sorry. Not, we were wrong. Just rage. Just blame. I played the message for Eva. You don't deserve this, she whispered. This isn't love. This is manipulation. And she was right. 2 days later, one last email arrived. Please, Allie, just this once, we're begging you. But I didn't reply. Instead, I started the process I should have started long ago, separating myself legally and emotionally. The house went to auction quietly, no dramatic showdown, no apology. Just a sterile email from the bank confirming the sale. They were finally exposed to a truth I had shielded them from for far too long. And oddly, I didn't feel triumphant. I felt at peace. Ava slid a manila folder across the cafe table the following week. I spoke to the lawyer like you, asked. If they try anything, contacting your job, harassing you, you're covered. I nodded. I never thought it would come to this, I admitted. They made that choice, Eva said. You just stopped cleaning up after it. A few days later, my father called. His voice was cracked and small. Allie, please. We didn't mean it. You know we didn't. We need you. For a second, the child in me wanted to believe him, but I didn't answer, because I finally understood. They didn't need me. They needed what I gave them. I boxed up old family mementos, photos, cards, trinkets, placed them in donation bins. I wasn't preserving memories anymore. I was making room for my own life. 2 weeks later, the auction concluded. A young couple bought the house. I saw their photo online, smiling wide, keys in hand. It was over. Relatives messaged me again, some furious. How could you abandon your parents like that? They gave you everything. This is unforgivable. But I knew the truth. They hadn't lost a house. They had lost me. And that, I realized, was the most empowering decision I had ever made. Because walking away wasn't about revenge. It was about survival. And I had finally chosen mine.